Yo, 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 yo. What it do, homies? I'm glad you are here. Today we are learning mono versus stereo for beginners. This is an important thing in music. What is mono? What is stereo? Well, let's get into that first. So, in music, we have two different types of sound. Mono sound is when a single channel of audio is used, meaning that all the sounds are mixed together and recorded or played back through a single audio channel. This results in the same signal being sent to all speakers or headphones. This means there's no sense of width or directionality in the sound. Everything appears to come from a single point in space. That's what mono sounds and feels like. With stereo, it uses two channels of audio, typically referred to the left and right. When played back, stereo allows for the perception of dimension and space in the sound, creating a sense of width and location. Different sounds can be positioned or panned across the stereo field from left to right. Now, in music production, whether in dubstep or any genre, the use of mono and stereo is critical for various reasons. This is stuff I learned in school. For mono, this is often used for elements that need to be centered and consistent, such as the bass, kick drum, the snare, and lead vocals. Mono compatibility is also important to ensure that the mix sounds good on mono systems like club PA systems, radios, and some smart speakers. With stereo, this is applied to elements that you want to spread around the listener to create a full immersive experience, such as background vocals, pads, synthesizers, and effects. The stereo field can be manipulated to place these elements in different spatial locations. For example, in dubstep, powerful elements like the bass wobbles might be kept in mono to ensure they have maximum impact and are clearly heard on all systems, while stereo might be used for atmospheric sounds, hi-hats, or other percussive elements to create a wider, more enveloping mix. So this is really important. Stereo is how we get things to sound psychedelic, right? Mono is such an old way, but we still need it, right? Just like it said, on radios, smart speakers, even some club systems are still playing mono. So we got to make sure everything sounds good. Now, when we're making music, it's a little bit of a different context. So I want to show you guys everything so you understand. First off, the tool that you're going to need is this free ozone imager. So I would go ahead and download that. The link will be in the description. This is how we measure how wide something is. We can see if it's mono or if it's stereo. So we can go ahead and look at the drums first. So remember, there are some things that we always keep mono, and one of those things is the kick. Another one would be the sub. Like when the sub is playing, for example, you can load up your imager and we can actually view what's happening and see it's right down the middle. This means it's mono. Now, even if the signal looked like a little bit wider than this, it still could be mono. So we're going to look at different types of signals here. So then we're going to look at our kick now. So now you'll see this kick. It's in the middle, but we still have a little bit of sparkle on the left and right. The majority of this signal's in the middle, so this is a mono sound. If we were going to then measure a sound that's not mono, and look at this bass, for example. You can play the bass. And you see that it's going all across from left to right. It's filling up the whole. And if you notice here, it's darker. It's even louder in this region because there is a strong mono signal with the stereo signal. Keep in mind, we're playing an audio sample, so this has already been created masterfully by Ominous, and he knows how to make a bass loop, so he made a loop with a strong mono signal as well as the stereo signal combined so that we can have that full sound. And that's what it really comes down to when we're creating sounds. So let's check it out. So this is like a Serum patch right here. And then we have another Serum patch. But the thing is this one's in mono. And then this one is in stereo. Let's go ahead and listen to these. Cool. So in this sound here. So if you see here, it's not completely mono. There's a lot. It's actually moving a lot from left to right. And if we look at this other one, this one's mono. So now, why is this one mono? Well, in Serum, you can actually make it mono or stereo. So what you have to look at are the voices. If it's in one, it's going to be mono. But if we change it and we add more voicings like 7, 9, now you see it gets wide. So when we make our sound, we can basically choose whether it's mono or if it's stereo. But let's say you got a preset, right? Like this. And you need it to be mono. Because right now it's stereo. So if we go to Serum and look at the preset, it shows 1. So that means something else is making it wide. So in the effects, there are effects that can actually make signal wide. And the main one would be hyperdimension here. Now, if we listen to this sound with hyperdimension, it looks like this. If we turn the hyperdimension off, then it becomes mono. So this is an effect that you need to pay attention to. Because what we're going to do is we want to have this sound, but we want this mono signal and we want a stereo signal. So right now, this sound is mono. If we add this reverb to it, it'll then make it stereo. But what we want to do is keep both. So the main trick here is to have both mono signal and stereo signal play at the same time. And that's really the main trick to getting your music loud and clean. That's called parallel processing. So what we have to do to initiate this is just group the effect and enter your chains. You would click this button here. Now you can see all the different chains. You would hit Command D to duplicate this chain, so you have 2 different signals. Both of these chains right here have this reverb on it. But on the top one, you can go ahead and click on the reverb and turn it off. Now you have 2 chains, one without a reverb, one with a reverb. This one is our mono. This one is our stereo. This one is stereo because it has the reverb. This one is mono because it doesn't have the reverb. And remember, this chain is playing everything before. So all this Serum amp. And remember, we just checked it earlier and it was saying that it was mono. We actually made it mono, right? It wasn't mono at first, but we had to change the hyperdimension. Now that it's mono, we added the effect. So we have this mono, then we have this stereo. You can solo both of them like this to hear them separately. Then when you unsolo, you'll hear the full thing. And then if that reverb stereo is too loud, you can just turn it down. mix it in. Then you'll see on the imager, the sound gets wider. But we still keep the mono signal. If the mono signal wasn't there, it would sound like this. With the mono signal, this is very important. Keeping your mono and stereo signals both there, parallel processing correctly. You want to make sure both of your chains are separate. You want to use the ozone imager to measure it, because your mono signal might be also a stereo signal, and you don't want to combine two stereo signals. It needs to be mono and stereo, so make sure you're paying attention to what your synthesizer is doing. Look at the voices and look at the effects that could be manipulating it. There are other knobs in Serum too, like in the filter, this pan knob, that would change the stereo image. And it looks like the delay, the phaser, and the chorus and the flanger, those effects would also manipulate the stereo image as well. So you just want to look at those and be careful. Make sure they're not doing anything you don't want them to do. Okay, great. So then now we can listen to these other loops, like this one. So go ahead and look at what this is doing in the stereo image. We're going back and forth between mono and stereo this time. Now, this is important to visually see, because in music, we're not just playing all stereo or all mono at one time. We're usually going back and forth between mono and stereo to create even more psychedelic effect in the music. These are things you want to take into consideration. The free drops, for example, or the fills can be more mono, and then when we go back into the response in the drop, then that's when it can get stereo again. With dubstep in the drops, we usually have our basses mono and stereo at the same time with the parallel processing I just showed you. And then you can have different sounds panned in other directions. Let's say you had this playing and you wanted to add another bass. This bass, we want to put it in a different spot in the stereo field. So this is called panning. You can go right or you can go left with any of your tracks here. If you move it right, then you can hear it on the right side. And if we combine that with the original, it makes for a cool effect. It really starts to widen out the sound and make it sound cooler and more interesting. Keep in mind too, Ableton's awesome and has things that manipulate the stereo image even better, like this auto pan. So with the auto pan, when you first load it up, it'll look like this. And then if you turn it up the amount, and here it starts to wiggle across left and right. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on. Remember, this imager is how we measure. This is very important. Cool. And whenever you need to control if something's, so let's say I'm seeing this and it's stereo and I don't want it to be stereo. What we need to do is load up a utility, and this will allow us to make things mono, or we can control the width like this. We can make it more wide or less wide, more mono. Let's go ahead and see what that does. This is normal, and I'm going to turn this down. See that? We can really manipulate our sound. We can even click on mono right here, and it makes it completely mono. What we're going to do is turn down the width. We're going to add this cool effect, the auto pan, and see what it does to the stereo image. See that? Super cool. You can change the rate, make it go slower, and it's literally moving slowly across the field. So it's moving left and right. That's controlled by the rate here. That's just being swiped across. Really nice. So you can visually see this. This is how you're going to really make your music awesome. When you're listening to music, you want to pay attention to where they place things in the stereo image. And also keep in mind too, full orchestras, there's a reason that they have instruments on the left, instruments in the middle, instruments on the right. It's a thing that happens. Also, I wanted to mention that the stereo image is just left and right, 2 channels. But in movies and cinematics, we have a Dolby Atmos, and basically it's unlimited channels. So they can be basically sound coming in all directions. And some audio engineers know how to mix and master with like 30, 60, or 100 channels. And it gets pretty intense. But luckily, our music is easy. We stick to 2 channels. We make those 2 channels super clean. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer it. Let me know. Any other videos you guys want to see? More beginner videos coming soon. Have a good day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.